Yes, hello and welcome back. Code is SDM here, and this is our fifth and final episode of our project where we are building the Smart Expense application, which from the last video we performed the functionality concerning with the dashboard of our application so that the user can be able to oversee their expenses, the way budget is going on. They have a way to see those analytics through the charts. So in today's video, we'll be working on the side of adding the smartness of our application or to add the AI feature into our application. So without further ado, let me first log in into my application, and then we are going to install this Gemini AI PHP Laravel package, which will help us to utilize the API from Gemini AI. Okay, so now let me log in. So let me log in with the current email. Oh, this is the wrong one. Let me try the right one, which is this one. So let me log in. Yep, so this is our dashboard, as you can see. So this is how it looks like. Is my previous video I showed you how to create all of these. So you can see you can be able to navigate through the months, and you can see even these datas are being changed. Okay, so that's how easy you can just use this functionality. Okay, so after that, now it's time for us to add the smartness into budget. So when you are creating a new budget here, like this one, so AI will give you the recommendations of which amount can you create for a certain category or for a certain budget of that specific month, basing on the history of what you have before. Okay, so it will just check on how you are spending your money through, let's say, 3 to 5 months before, and then from there, from that history, it will take that and recommend you with the smart amount that you can use here. Okay, so that is what we are going to build in this particular video. So let's go direct and start to install this package. So this package is known as Google Gemini PHP, which is specific for Laravel. And from here, you will see this is the documentation, and from it, I can just be able to install. First, I'll create I'll require this package into my application, then I'll install it into my application. So let me go direct to the terminal. So let me zoom a little bit, and then let's go to the blank terminal. I'll clear it, and then I'll paste my command, which is composer require Google Gemini PHP / Laravel. So this will start to install or to copy all the composer files for this particular package. Okay. All right, so now this has been done. So now it's time to install the package. So you need to run this PHP artisan Gemini, then install. So let's run that. Yeah, so you can see. So it will publish the configuration file, which is gemini.php, and also it will add the Gemini API key variable into the .env file and in .env.example files. So here I'll say no because I've already done that. So means now the installation process has been done. So now the next step is to go into .env file and see how it has been updated. So now here on the .env file, you see there is this new variable that you can use to put your API key here. So now you may ask yourself a question like, where do you get these API keys? So now you need to visit this site, which is aistudio.google.com. So when you visit this link, which I'll pin it on my video description, so you'll be directed to this page. So you have to log in with your email, and after that, you'll be able to use this Google service, which is for AI. So basically, when you visit this page, you have a way to add the different applications. You can be able to do the chatting. So for example, you can chat here with the AI. You can ask, let's say, how can I become a good Laravel developer? So basically, when you do that and you click this one, so this is actually it will utilize the AI to give you these explanations. So you can see it will give you everything that you need. So now basically you have to be in a position to know that what we need from here is to basically to have the API key. So where do you get the API key from here is by visiting this dashboard. So there is a link which is called the dashboard. So click on that, and from here you will be able to see the API keys that you have already created, but you cannot utilize it if you don't have the the project. And this project, basically you will create it on your Google console. So if you don't have that on your Google console, so you will not be able to create it. So to do so, now I'll show you how to get the API key. So because I have already the project of from the Google console, so here I'll just create a new API key, which I'll call it smart expense. Okay, and from there I'm going to select the project. So basically I have this project, and if you don't have the project, you can create it from here. But basically, if you don't have the Google console account, so you just need to visit here and just search for Google console. Okay, so visit this first link. So make sure that it was loaded successfully. So I guess my network is not that good. Yeah, so now after it has been created and opened successful, so you can be able to select the project here. But if you don't have any project, so you can be able to create it. So here you see, so you have that ability to create a new project. So you can see from there, I was using this project, which is called the blog test. Okay, so that's what I was trying to show you, so that you can be able to create the project if you don't have anyone. Okay, so after that, now let's go back here and let's say we want to use this one, and after that let's create a key. Okay, so this is just a name of the key, so let's create that. Okay, so you can see that key was created, and you can see it has been created on November 9, which is the date that I'm recording this video. So, and this is the name of the key. Okay, so from here, like when you want to copy that key, so you just need to click here. So let me zoom that, you see, so this copying to clipboard button that you have, so click that, and after that, now let's go here and paste it here. Okay, so if you copy this one, it will not work, because after the end of this video, I'll just delete it from my account here, so that you guys cannot mess up with my application. So I'll just delete the key here. Okay, so after that, now we have the key on our application. So the next step is to utilize Gemini AI into our application. So basically, now if you go to composer.json, you should be able to see that application or the package being installed here. So you can see this is the new package that we have installed. So now it is time to start to build the application. So the approach that we are going to use to simplify and to be able to create a maintainable code, so I'm going to add the service layer. So when we are talking about the service layer, so this is a kind of development architecture that I'm going to show you. So what you are going to do here on your file system, here on your file structure, inside the app, we are going to create a new directory, which we are going to call it services. services. Okay, and inside the services I'm going to create a new file which I'm going to call it budget AI then service, okay, .php. Okay, so this should be a .php file. Okay, and after that this should be a PHP file, so we have to declare that this is a PHP file, and from it we are going to start to build the application. So let's create the class which should follow the PSR4 of PHP. So here will be the file, and then after that this the class, then inside it will be like this way. So make sure that this name is corresponding to this one. So make sure the characters, the way you put the uppercase and the small cases, so all of the characters should have the same case. Okay, so after adding that, because when you, let's say you add something like this, so PSR4 will not be able to understand this what you are doing, so make sure that it is corresponding to this one. So after that, now the next step is to start to create the functions that we are going to need into this class. Okay, so here I'm going to create a new file or a new method. So I'm going to say public function get budget recommendation. Okay, and after that this should be our first class or our first method into our class. Okay, and after that, now inside it let's create the following things. So I'm going to start with the try and catch block. So here on exception, so I'm going to show the exception, and then the exception I'm going to call it E. Okay, and after that I'm going to log any error that is going to happen. So I'm going to say error, and then after that I'm going to say, let's say budget AI recommendation error. Okay, and after that I'm going to add the specific error message. So from this object of error of exception, which is an instance of exception, we're going to get this method which is called the get message. So after that, now we have to return null here because there is nothing we're going to return when we have an error. Okay, and when we are doing this, so we need to do the following. So the first thing we need to get the historical spending data of our user, and then what we are going to do, I'm going to create this variable which is called the historical data, and which I'm going to get it from a certain function that we are going to create, which is called the get historical spending, let's say. Okay, oh, not that way, we should terminate there. Okay, so this is what we are going to get. So now let's create this function first. Okay, and then let me pause it. So from this method, what we are going to do, we are just going to define the following. So basically it should accept the following parameters so that we can be able to process the historical data. So I'm going to pass an empty integer which should be category ID, then integer of user ID, then integer of target month. Okay, and after that we have the target year. Okay, so after that, now let's have the following two variables that we are going to use here. So the first one will be expense, which should be an empty array, and then we're going to have the monthly totals, okay, which should be also an empty array, and after that we're going to have get the last 3 months of data, okay, which means we are going to exclude the target month, okay. So here what we are going to do, we are going to get the last 3 months by excluding the current or the targeted month, okay. So what we are going to do is to have a for loop here, okay. In this for loop, what we are going to do, I'm going to define a variable which should be this way, and after that we're going to say when I is less than or equals to 3, means the 3 months, okay, then we are going to do an increment, okay. So do an increment like this way, so I then increment, and then after that inside the for loop we're going to define the date by getting the instance of carbon. So let's say carbon, then we're going to say create, okay, and what we are going to create, we are going to use the target year, and this should be this way. So import this carbon, yeah, so make sure that you have imported it this way, and then here we're going to use the target month, okay, and for the day we're going to just pass the day 1, and after that we are going to say sub month, okay, let's say some months, then it should corresponding to I, okay, so this should be sub months, okay, and after that now we have the date instance, and after that let's create the query for getting those expenses. So here what we are going to do is to call the expense model, okay, make sure that you have imported it like this way, and after that from this expense model we are going to get to the following expenses by saying where the user ID equals to the logged in user, okay, and after that we are going to say where, let's use the where month, then we can pass here the field which is date, okay, and here you can pass the date, but the format of the date you can just leave it this way, but we need this specifically a month here, so we're just going to say month because we created this instance from the carbon, so it will support that month, okay, because we are going to get it from this object. So after that we need to have a where year, and here we're going to get the year, okay, and after that now let's terminate that one, and then we are going to have an if condition here. So we're going to check if the category ID it will be there, means if the category ID is not empty. So we are going to do the following, we are going to add the where condition where the category ID should be corresponding to that category ID that we have passed here, okay, and after that we are going to say monthly expense, monthly expense, let's say expenses will be equals to query, then get, okay, and after that the total should be equals to months expenses, then sum of amount, okay, because the amount field we have it from the expenses, so we are going to sum it, that's when we are going to get the total for that particular month. Okay, and then after that we're going to do the following. We're going to have an if conditions, and in this if condition what we are going to do is to say if the total is greater than 0, means we're going to do the following. So expense, okay, which is our array that we defined here. This should be expenses, like this way. Okay, so expenses, which is an array, should be equals to the following array, which we are going to show the month. Okay, so the month should be corresponding to the date, then format to, I'm going to format this one to month. Okay, so the month, which should be a full month, and then the year. Okay, after that we are going to have the other things, which should be the total, which should be corresponding to the total that we have get up here. So we're going to say total. Okay, after that we're going to have the count, which should be coming from the monthly expense, so month expenses, then count, like this way. And then after that we need to have the expenses, the actual expenses. So here we're going to say month expenses, then we're going to plug the title. So means you are just going to get the title from this data, and then we're going to take only let's say 10 of those expenses, and then after that we're going to say we're going to change it to array. Okay, like this way. So after that means you can be able to terminate this one. See, so means now we have all the data that we wanted to add into these expenses. So after that we need to find a way to return those data to where this method is being called here. So to do so, we are going to go down here, and then we're going to say return. Then we're going to return the following array, which should be expenses. Okay, should be corresponding to the expenses that we have created up here. Okay, and after that we are going to get, let's say, an average, which you can use this way to get the average. So you can check if it is not empty. Okay, if let's say monthly total is not empty. Okay, so we're going to do the following. So array, then underscore sum. Okay, so I'm going to say monthly totals, then we're going to say divide by the count of the monthly totals. Okay, like this way. Okay, and if it is empty, means we're going just to return 0. Okay, the similar way to get the minimum, maximum, and the trend. So for minimum amount, we are just going to do the following. If the totals is let's say empty, or it is not empty, means we're going to say minimum, then we get the minimum from the array of monthly totals. Okay, like this way. But if it is let's say this is empty, so we are going to return 0. So this is what we are going to do for max. So for the max, let me test it. So what we are going to do is just to change the logic. So here instead of min, so we are going to use the max. Okay, so this method will just find the maximum value in this array, which is the monthly total, which is this one. So it is going to get the value, and then from that value it is going to add it. But here you will ask yourself, like, where does this monthly total we defined it? So we defined it here, but there is nowhere where we added the value. So down here we were supposed to say the monthly totals will be equals to the totals, or equals to the total that we get from here. Okay, so that's where you will be able to use it down here to get the average, minimum and maximum values, and after that we need to get the trend. Okay, so the trend will be corresponding to this, then calculate. So this will be the new method, calculate, let's say, trend. Okay, which should accept the monthly totals. Okay, like this way. So after that, let me terminate this. Okay, so we need to create this method. So let's create it very quickly. So down here we're going to say public function calculate trend, which should accept that parameter. And from this method, what we are going to do is to check first if the monthly totals count is not, let's say, let me just show you. So let's say count from this method. So if the count of that method is not less than 2, okay, so means if we don't have less than 2 months on history here, okay, so if we don't have less than 2 months, so after that oh, why this is not working as expected? Possibly we can just leave it, because I guess this is just the editor's error, so it will not affect anything on our side. So let's continue here. So here we were checking if the count of those let's say totals is less than 2. So what we are going to do, we are going just to return the following text, which is stable. Okay, so I'm going to explain to you why we use stable here, and then after that we need to compare. So we need to do the comparison for most recent month with the oldest month. Okay, so here what we are going to do is we are going to say recent equals to monthly totals, then you are going to get the first value in that array. Okay, so that will be the most recent, and for the oldest, so oldest should be from months, then we are going to say monthly totals, so we are going to say count, then we are going to say monthly totals, then we are going to say in array we are going to say -1. So means it is going to get the last value in this particular array. Okay, and after that we are going to say the percentage change between the 2 months should be equals to recent minus oldest, then divided by oldest here should be divided by oldest. okay, then times 100, like this way. Okay, so that's when we are getting the percentage change. And after that, we're going to say if the percentage change is greater than 10, let's say, we can just return there is an increase. Okay, so increasing means from the oldest month to the newest, there is an increase in trend. Okay, so the trend is increasing. Okay, and the other way around means in an else if, we can just say if the percentage change, let's say it is less than, let's say 10, something like 10, which should be negative 10, let's say, so means there is a decrease. Okay, so we're going to say decreasing. Okay, I guess this I will write it correctly. Decreasing. Yeah, I guess that is the right one. Okay, and after that, if there is decreasing, and the last way to return, so we're going to say stable. Okay, like this way. So if let's say the last the percentage change of the recent and the oldest, there is no difference, so it means that this is stable. That's what we are going to do even on this. So if we just have less than 2 months, means let's say we have just one historical month, so we cannot be able to get the percentage change. So we just need to say the change is stable. Okay, or the trend is stable. So that's what we are going to do in this method here. Okay, so from here, as you can see, so this method requires these 4 parameters. So means we need to provide these parameters to here. Okay, to our method here. So how we're going to pass them, so means we are supposed to have those values passed from this method here first. So we need to say int category ID, after that then we need to pass the integer user ID, then integer month, and the last one should be year. Okay, so after that this should return, let's say, an empty array, like something like this. So after that, now let's have a way to pass those values down here as parameters on our method. So let's pass them here. Okay, but here we don't need this type hinging, so we can just remove them like that way. Okay, so after that, now everything is fine. So it means now when you just call this method, it will just call this method here, and after that this method will do the for loop, and from that for loop we are going to get this result of an array. So from that array you have this method called the calculated trend, which will be called down here, and from that method is when you are going to get the trend. Okay, so after that we have more method which are usable. So the next method that we are going to define here, it is called the create prompt. So here is when we are going to create the prompt, so like preparing the prompt of which prompt we are going to give the AI. So let's say created the prompt for Gemini AI. Okay, so here what we are going to do, we are going to define the private function. Basically, even this method should be private because we just call it here, not outside this method or this class. So basically it should be the private, so that no one can be able to access it outside of this class. Okay, so similar way to this get historical spending, but I guess that one is important to be private basically, because it is being called within the same class. Okay, but this one should be public because we will call it outside this class. Okay, so after that we're going to say create prompt. Okay, so that is another method that we are going to create. So this method, it is going to do the following things, but before you create anything, we need to pass the following parameters. So the first parameter, it is an array of historical data. Okay, so let me check on the historical data here. So this should be he, not he historical. It should be historical data. Okay, so after that we need to pass down the historical data, and from that historical data, then we have category ID, then you have, let's say, month, then you have year. Okay, so after that, now let's start to work on this method. So the first thing that we are going to do is to say category name should be coming from category ID. Then we're going to say from category model, we're going to find category ID, and then from it we're going to get the name. But if it happens that is empty, we can just say this category okay, and if it happens like this category ID is empty, so import this class first. Okay, so if it happens that category ID is empty, means this is an overall spending. Okay, so we can just say overall spending. Okay, after that, now let's define the target month. Target month, so equals to carbon. Then we are going to create the date. So we are just going to create the date from the year, month, and for the day we can just put 1. Then we are going to say format. Then we are going to format it to the similar format of a full month and year. Okay, and after that, let's define the prompt. So we are going to say prompt should be equals to, let's say we're going to do the following. So I'm just going to paste the following command that I've already started to prepare for you. So I'm going to paste it like this way. So we're just going to tell the AI that you are a personal finance advisor, analyze the following spending data, and provide a budget recommendation. Then after that, we're going to give it some line breaks, and after that, we're going to append the following thing. So we're going to say prompt will be, when you do dot, then equals, so means you are doing an appending operator. So the text that you will put on this side will be added where this text is ending. Okay, so that's why we are using this way. So here, make sure that you are using the dot. Okay, and after that, inside this one, we are going to say category So we are going to pass the category that we have, which will be coming from here. So this is category name. So make sure that this is category name, like this way. Okay. And after that, we're going to say for the targeted month. So in targeted month, we are going to say prompt, and then we are going to say target month. So we're going to call the target month that we created from here. Okay. And then after that, it is time to add the historical data on our prompt. So we're just going to say prompt, then historical spending, then we're going to say last 3 months. Okay. Then after that, we are going to add the line breaking, and after that we are going to have a for each loop here. So for each, so here we are going to say historical data, which is an array, and then we're going to say expenses, then we are going to call it just an expense. Okay. Then from there, inside this for each loop, we're going to say prompt will be equals to the following thing. So we're going to say expense, then we want to access the month. Okay. Then we want to add another, then expense, then total. Okay, after that, then we can be able to access expense, then count. So remember, all of these details, we defined them here. So we have the month, total, count, and expenses. So that's what we are going to access them here. Okay. And after that, we've added that, and after the count, we can just say expenses, then this way, and after that, we're going to add the following thing, and after that, we're going to terminate it. Okay. So this is the way that we are going to add that in our prompt, and then we are going to have an if condition. So in this if condition, we're just going to check if it is not empty here. Let me just show you. In expense, then we are going to say expense. Okay. If it is not empty, what we are going to do, we're going to append the prompt in this way. So top items, then we're going to say include, which will join array element with a separator. So the separator that we are going to use here is a comma, and after that we're going to say array underscore slice. Okay, so on this slice, what we are going to do is to do the following. So just to say expenses, actually expense, then from it we're going to get the expenses, okay, and here we're going to say an offset should be 0, and then the length of the array can be 5. Okay, so we can just slice this let's say array into 5 parts, okay, which will be the length of that array. Okay, so we're just going to get a new array which will create it from this array. Okay, and after that what we are going to do is to append that value that we've get from here. Then we are going to append the next step. So prompt, then we are going to say spending statistics. So the spending statistics, so down here we're going to add the spending statistics. So the first statistic that we're going to add is that the average. Then we are going to add the average that we created before. So we're going to say this way. Then number format, and from number format we're going to say historical data. Then from historical data we're going to get the average amount, okay, and from there we're going to say the decimal places should not be greater than 2, and after that let's say we can add the line breaking. Okay, so after that I'm going to add the minimum, maximum, and trend. So let me add them here. Okay, so you can see here I've added the minimum, which is this one. I've added the maximum, and also I've added the trend, okay, which already we have those details from here, okay, which has been created by using this historical spending. Okay, after that now the next step is to add the details for the AI to understand what we're going to do. So we're going to add the following additional text to the prompt. So the first thing we're going to say is based on this data which we have provided, and we are going to say provide first a recommended budget amount, which is a single number, 2 a minimum safe amount, 3 a maximum comfortable amount, 4 a brief explanation within 2 or 3 sentences on why you recommend this amount. Then the last one, which is the fifth action, should be one actionable tip to stay within budget of a certain amount. Okay, so based on the details that we have, so we are going to ask the AI to give these details. So the recommended budget, minimum safe amount, maximum, a brief explanation, and the actionable tip, so that the user can stay within the budget. Okay, and after that now let's add the last two let's say guide to our AI on our prompt, and after that we are going to return that prompt to the AI. Okay, so after that we are going to say format your response as JSON with these exact keys. So we are going to guide the AI in a way that the prompt or the response for this prompt should be. So we need to have a recommended value, which should be like this way, a minimum value, which should be like this way. So this is just an examples, and an explanation, which can be here, and then for the tip. Okay, so this is just a way that we have created this prompt. So you can see from here up to here, this is how we are formatting the prompt. Okay, so after that now let's return the prompt. So we're going to say return, then prompt. Okay, like this way. So now the prompt now is working very fine. So now the next step is to try to pass the AI response. Okay, so to pass the AI response, we're going to use the following method. So like a way to transform the AI response. So we're going to say private, then function pass AI response. So we're going to pass the string of response, okay, and then we're going to pass the array of historical data. So inside this method, what we are going to do is to have a try and catch block. Okay, and inside this try block, what we are going to do is to have an if condition. Okay, so inside this if condition, what we are going to check is to check this the following things. So let me just paste this and then I'll explain to you step by step. So from here, what you will see, we're going to check if the pretty much let's say a certain pattern. So we're going to check for a regular expression if matches the following things. So if on your details of our response we have any of these let's say brackets, so because here we know that the response is coming in JSON format, so we are trying to get if there is any JSON format that has been returned from the response. So if we get that these let's say brackets in that value or in that response, and we have checked that we have that matches, so that's when we are going to continue with the following thing. But if it's not that way, we are going to define another thing here, which will act as a fallback way of using the statistical approach. So what we are going to do is to say return then this get fallback recommendation, which will accept the historical data. Okay, so after that, here on the else or any catch block, we are going to say exception, then an instance of exception, then we can do the log. Then on error, we can just say failed to pass AI response. Okay, like this way. And after that, we can return get fallback recommendation. Okay, so we are going to define this method down here. So let me just create it very quickly. Okay, so we are going to deal with that. Also, you see here we have this method that we should create. So let me just create that. Okay, so after that, here you can see after we have get the JSON, so on from these matches, we are going to assign it to this JSON variable. After that, we are going to check if from that variable we have the recommended value or index. So if we have that value in this array, so that's when we are going to do the followings. So the recommended, we are going to type hint it or to transform it to float, and then after that we are going to make it to be corresponding to this value. For the minimum, we're going to check if we have the minimum. If it happens that it is not there, so we can just say the recommended, then we can times it by this value, so that's when we can get the minimum value, and for the maximum it will be the vice versa. So we'll just do the following. After that, the explanation, we'll get the explanation. If it happens it is empty, So we're going to use this null coalescing operator to assign this value. So this will act as an if condition in either way. So it will just do like this. When this side is empty, it will take this side, or when this side is empty, it will take this side. Okay, so this is null coalescing operator. Okay, similarly to the tip. And for the confidence is where we're going to calculate it by using this method. So now it is time to create the fallback recommendation. So to create the fallback recommendation, I'm just going to paste the following code so that we can fasten a little bit the video. Okay, so from here you can see the average of our historical data is the one that we're going to use here. So from that average, here we're going to get to add a 10% buffer for safety. So we are going to do this way. So down here you can see the recommended. We are going to get it from here by using this value. So you can see we are timesing it by 1.1 to add the 10% buffer. You can see the precision there. So the minimum, the maximum. So this is just as a fallback. So if it happens that the JSON format was not returned, or the response does not contain the recommended values from the AI, so that's when we're going to call this fallback. So this is just a fallback way of instead of returning null to the user, so we can try to return the let's say the fallback way of that. Okay, after that we have the function to create how to calculate the confidence of our data so that the AI can track from there. So what we are going to do here is to say the month with data. Okay, we're going to count the expenses from that month, and from there we're going to check if the month is with data greater than 3. So if the month is from expenses, let's say we have more than 3 historical months. So if we have the 3 historical months, so means the confidence will be high, means we can get the most accurate data. But let's say if the months with data is only 2, means the confidence level will be medium. Like we cannot actually get the correct recommendation, but we will try basing on the values. But if the value is less than, or you don't have anything from the expenses, so the confidence value should be low, or the confidence level should be low. So that's what is going on this method. So I guess that this is very straightforward, and so that you can be able to understand it correctly. So the last additional method that we need to create it here, it is to check if the user has enough historical data. Okay, so what we are going to do here, we're just going to say public function then as enough historical data, and then from it we're going to pass the following 2 details. So the first one will be an integer of category ID, and after that we're going to pass the user ID. Okay, after that we're going to say 3 months ago, it will be equals to now, then sub months, okay, then we're going to submit 3 months, then we're going to say start of a day. Okay, like this way. That's when we are getting the 3 months ago, and from there we are going to get this expense. So expense will be where the user ID equals to the user ID then we are going to say where the date will be equals, not actually equals, we can just say, for example, where the date will be greater than or equals to the 3 months ago. Okay. And after that, if we have the category ID, then we are going to add the where condition on that query, like this way. And if nothing exists again, so we can just return the query. And if the count is greater, let's say greater than 3 possibly, so let's say if we have enough historical data, you can say, let's say 3, but you can say 5, basing on what you want to have the confidence in. Okay, so for now I just leave it to 5. Okay, so now we will try to see if the 5 is not there, so minimum, let's say we can just reduce it a little bit. Okay, so now the class now is actually fine. So we have all the method that we wanted. So we have the get budget recommendation, historical data, we have the calculate trend, create a prompt where we created the prompt, we have the pass AI response, we have the get fallback recommendation, calculate confidence, and we check if we have enough historical data. Okay. After that, now the next step is to utilize this budget AI service into our Livewire component or our Livewire form, which is this one. Okay, so what we are going to do here is to add the following things. So the first thing that we are going to do basically is to add the flags. So these flags will help us to track the AI things. So the first things that we're going to add here is, let's say, I'm just going to say AI recommendation properties. Okay, so we're going to say public AI recommendation, which by default should be null. We have another one for like a flag, so we're going to say show AI recommendation. Then public loading Okay, so these are the 4 flags or properties that we are going to use. So we are trying to update this page because, as I've mentioned before, so that is the page that we are going to use. So here on budget create, okay, so we are going to see. So those will be helpful into the form. So we are going to see on how the form will be updated. Okay, so here we will update this method, this form as expected. So after that, we have other things that we need to add. So the first thing that we are going to update is on mount method, where we are going to have the following method, which will be called, which says check historical data, like this way. And then after that, let's define that method. So let me just define it down here. So we can just say public function check okay. So after that, from this method, what is going to happen is to do the following things. So the first thing, it will be to have an if condition, which will be checking if the current month and the current year are not empty. So make sure that they have any data. Okay. After that, we're going to say AI service will be equals to the AI service that we have created. So it will be budget AI service. Okay, so like this way. After that, we're going to say this then has historical data will be equals to AI service. Then we're going to call the has enough historical data. Then we're going to pass the category. So that will be the first thing. So it will be this, then category ID. Okay, and after that we let's say in this category ID, possibly sometimes it can happen that it is empty. So if it will be empty, so what you can do is just to return null or pass the null value, and then here we have to pass the authenticated user ID. Okay, so let's say auth user then ID. Okay, because if you come to this one, you see, so it accepts the category ID and the user ID. So those will be the two things that we need them here. So this method will only be called in order to check if the user has enough historical data. Okay, so after that, now let's do the following things. So we need to update the one of the method. So when you are doing, let's say you are updating the category ID on the form here, let's say you are changing this one from overall to, let's say, education. So when you are changing that, we need to recall the checky historical data so that we can be able to see if the user has historical data. Okay, so this budget AI service not found. Okay, let's see if I've imported it successful. So let's import this one. Class already imported. Let me import it successful. So I guess this should be okay. So now I guess it is fine. Okay, so now to resolve that error, I guess it is because the outload does not determine the new class. So to do so, let's just do the following. So we are going to say composer amp autoload. Okay, so means it is going to generate new optimized autoload because our new service class was not updated before. So now it will be included on the new autoload files, so that it will be included and it will be found as we expected. Okay, so after that, Now, for example, when you are doing the category ID update, we need to recheck if the user has enough historical data. So what is going to happen here, we're just going to define the following method. So we are going just to say public function, and we are going to use the lifecycle hooks of Livewire. So category ID, when you updated the category ID, so we are going to check the AI like we did before this way, because already we've done that thing here. So we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to check if we have the historical data, okay? And after that, if everything is working and the variable is updated, so we need to reset the AI recommendations. So we are just going to say this, any AI recommendation, we're going to return it back to null. Then we're going to say show AI recommendation. Then we're going to return it to false. Okay. After that, now when you update the month and the year, also we need to re-update the, or we need to check the historical data if it has enough data be checked. Okay, so we need to check the historical data when the month and year change. So when you update the month or you update the year, so we call again this check historical data, which we'll call this method, and after calling it, then it will be called there. But this, because we call it inside this budget form, so this should be a private method because it is being called within the same component class. Okay. After that, now we need to define another method which is called the get the AI recommendation. So this is when we are going to get the recommended values from the AI service or the budget AI service. So here, let's define that method very quickly. So we are going to say public function get AI recommendation. Then we're going to do the following things. So the first thing, we're going to allow to say if we are loading the recommendations. So we're going to make it to be true. After that, we are going to do the try and catch. So on a try, we're going to say AI service will be equals to the new budget AI service. And after that, we're going to say the recommendation will be equals to AI service, then get budget recommendation, and we need to pass the following details. So the first one will be the category ID. So we're going to say category ID. After that, we need to pass the user ID. So we're going to say use auth user, then ID. After that, we need to pass the month. So we're going to say this, then a month, similar way to the year. Okay. After that, now terminate that, and then we're going to say if it happens that the recommendation let's say if we have the recommendation and it is not null, so we're just going to say this AI recommendation should be equals to the recommendation that we have get from the service. And after that, we're just going to say show AI recommendation equals to true, because now it will be available, so we need to show the AI recommendations on our view. Okay, after that, now if it happens that this is not let's say it is 0 or it is null, so what you are going to do is to say session, then flash the message, which will be AI error. It will be unable to generate recommendation. Please try again. So something like that. And after that, we need to have a catch here where we're going to catch the exception. So after that, we're going to say session flash. Here we're going to say AI service temporarily unavailable. Okay, then please try again later, let's say something like that. Okay, and after that, what we are going to do after the catch, then we can do this, then loading recommendation equals to false, so to return that back to false. Okay, so after that, this will work just fine. So now the next thing is to apply the AI condition. Okay, so the AI recommendation. So to apply them, what you are going to do when the user wants to apply that into the field of budget amount, so what we are going to do is to say public function apply recommendation, then we are going to say type, so by default the type should be recommended, and I'm going to show you that we are going to have three types. So we are going to have the recommended and the other two types, the minimum and the maximum one. So here we are going to have an if condition, and then we are going to say if AI recommendation is not null, we are going to say is, then amount should be equals to this AI recommendation. Then from that array, we're going to say if the type equals to recommended, yeah, so this is what we are going to do here. And after that, let's say we want to close the AI recommendations and the user want to do those things manually. So you can just have a method that will be used to close the AI. So this basically, it will just disable the AI showing. So show AI recommendation, this will be returned to false. Okay, so after that, everything will remain the same for this component class, and now we can be able to use these AI features that we've added into our view. So let's go to the view and start to update it very quickly so that we can add the AI recommendations on it. Okay. So let's go to the form, which is this one. So now basically already we have created the optimized files. So now let's try again to refresh. Possibly you can just do php @optimize. Okay, so this says unable to prepare route. Another route is already with the name expenses index. Let's see from the web.php. Oh, this should be AI create. Oh no, I mean expense create. Okay. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. And from here, yeah, so that's fine. So now that will work. So now let's try again. Okay, now this is done. Now let's go back here and try again. Okay, so still we are getting the same error, means that the budget AI service is not found. So basically what can be the cause here? Let me check how we imported this one. So it is okay. So this namespace, I guess it has an issue because this service is found inside the app. Then you can see there's this directory called these services. So maybe we should use this way. So we can just say app \, then you can say services \, then budget AI service. I guess that now will work. So now let's go back here and refresh. Okay, still it is not acceptable. Services. So now I guess the issue here, let's go back to this class and see what is happening here. Okay, so this is budget AI service. Oh yeah, I guess it was because we didn't define the namespace here, so obviously it will not work. So let's say name space, then app, then services. Okay, so like this way. And after that, let me import this log. Okay, and after that, now we have another thing that we didn't finish here. So before I go to the view and started to update it, I forgot that I think that I didn't update, which is to finish the get budget recommendation. So the get budget recommendation method should be having the following things. So as we have already get the historical data, so check if we don't have the historical data. So if historical data will be empty, okay, so if it happens that the historical data is empty, so what we are going to do is to return a null value, okay, and after that if it happens that is not empty, so let's use the prompt. So you create the prompt, which should be prompt will be equals to this, then create prompt, which is the method that we created down here, which is this one. Okay, after that, after we called that, so here it requires the following parameters, so we can just copy them and paste them here. Okay, So basically you can just remove this type hinting. Okay, so you can just remove them like that. And after that, now down here we are going to get the response. Get recommendation from Gmail AI. Okay, so what we are going to do here is where we are going to call the Gmail AI facade. So what we are going to do, we are going to say response will be equals to Gmail. Okay, so call that facade, and then from that facade, what we are going to do is to say generative model. Okay, then here you're going to say model. Basically we need to import the facade. So this is the facade from Gemini AI. Yeah, so that is fine. So here the first parameter that you should pass, it is the name of the model that you're going to use. So you can see here the name of the model will be Gemini 2. Then flash. Okay, and then after that I'm going to call this method, which is saying generate content. Then after that you need to pass the prompt. Okay, then after that we're going to return then pass the AI response. Then we are going to say response, then text. Okay, then historical data, something like that. Okay, so this is what is going to happen here. So we're going to get the historical spending, which we will call this method. Inside that method, it will call this calculate trend, which calculate trend will call this method. We are going to create the prompt, and after that you see we have a way to pass the AI, we have the calculate confidence, we have the get fallback recommendation, we have this one, and also this one. So now this component, I mean the budget AI service class, is now working as we expected. Okay, so after that, now it is time to go and update the form, because already we've updated the component class. So now let's update the component view. So the first place where we are going to update is on amount of our budget. So on the amount of our budget, what we are going to update is the following things. So the first thing, when we go to the budget amount here, okay, so let's say for example the amount of, so here the amount field, we are going to update it so that it can adapt to AI recommendations. So means if the user is not using the AI, so they can just use this field to add it manually, but if there is AI, we need to update this div so that it can adapt it to AI recommendations. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste the following simple code, and which we are going to use it to update that value. Okay, So I'm just going to remove this and I'm going to paste the new source code, which is this one. So you can see from here I've updated this div to have a flex, and I've added this items center so that to center the items, and then I have justified between. I have the margin bottom. Here the label has remained, but here there is an if condition for showing the AI recommendation buttons, where if we have the historical data, the month, year, and is edit, that's when we are going to show these buttons. So you can see this button inside it, it will have the get AI recommendation, and this will be the button that the user will click to get the suggestions. So when the user click, it will call the get AI recommendation, which will call this method. Okay, so this should be AI. Okay, this should be this AI recommendation. Okay, after that it will call that method, and after that you will see there is this loading, so the button will be disabled automatic. After that you see, so this will be the SVGs that will be shown when you are doing the loading. After that, now you will be able to see the AI recommendation on down here, which I'll add. But if you are doing the manual work, means you are not doing the AI recommendation, so you just add the amount manually. So the thing that is added here is just this one, and to add this way of being able to add the flexi capability. So now here you will just see the button has been added. Okay, and after that, now the button has been added because we have the historical data, because you can be able to go to 1 month or 2 months and you will see we have the data. So now that's why you see this button here. Okay, so after that, now let's update the following things too. So down that button, or down that field down here, is where we're going to add the AI recommendation panel. So the panel that we're going to add, it is the following things. Okay, so let me just update that here. Okay, so which is this one. So AI recommendation panel, it will be this way. So we are going to have the close button, but it will check if we have the show AI recommendation equals to true, and also if we have the AI recommendations from the component. Okay, so if we have those two to true, so we are going to show the following details. We have this close button, we have the AI badge, which shows that this is the AI recommendation. You can see the confidence level, which can be high, the text should be green. If it is medium, the text should be yellow, and it should be orange if the confidence is low. Okay, then the recommendation amount. So here we're going to have the conservative, which will be the minimum value, which should have the minimum value from the recommendation. We have the recommended, which should take the value from recommended value. Then you have the maximum, which should be as a maximum comfortable amount the user can use. And when they click either of these method, it is going to call this apply recommendation, which we have already defined here, which is this method. We'll call with the type. So you see from here, the type can be minimum, recommended, or maximum. So when that type is passed here, so it will just be applied to the amount field. So when it will be applied to the amount field up here, so that amount field will be binded to the amount field of our form, which is actually right here. Okay, so it will just apply to this model. Okay, so after that, now we have this text, which will be the explanation as why this amount. So this explanation will be basing on what we have given the AI. If you remember where we are creating the the prompt, here we said that it should give the minimum, maximum, and a brief explanation of 2 to 3 sentences. Okay, then an actionable tip. So here will be the explanation, and the actionable tip, it is this one. Okay, So this will be the tip. And after that, this is the preview card that we have it from the beginning. Okay, so this should be the similar way. So on our component class here, it should be show AI recommendation. Okay, show AI recommendation. Okay, so let me update all of these to the new show AI recommendation variable, and now you can see, so we have everything that we need. So now what we can do, let's say when you change this one, so this should be remain there because already we have the historical values. So now when you click this button, it should check from those historic values, and then it should suggest a better amount here. So let's try the magic. So click there, so analyzing. You see, so now it has given us the values, and you can see the confidence is low because we don't have a lot of details. So you see the conservative amount, it is $100, the recommended is $100, and the maximum comfortable value, it is 150. Why it has suggested that? Because when you go to the let's say expenses, check the expenses in the new tab, so you can see, let me just do the following things. Yeah, like this way. So you can see, so this is the AI recommended values. So come to the expenses here, and you will see from the expenses here. So it will try to get the average of all the expenses that you have done, let's say in the 2 or 3 previous months. Like you can see, all of the expenses that we did, they were not more than 200. So you can see, so that's why it has tried to get the average, and from that average it has tried to suggest the recommended values which it is not exceeding or under the right recommended expense. As to why to this, so your education spending has been stable at this one per month. So you can see, let's say on this month we did the 100, and from the another month we did also 100. That's why you see, so it was been stable, means it was not changing. That's why it has suggested $100, okay, as your amount. So now to apply this here, so you can just click on any of these values. So if I click it here, so it should be populated here automatically like this way, and after that you can be able to create that budget on education. Okay, so if I go to, let's say, to food and dining, and then let's say let me refresh this again. So let me refresh the form, see, and let me go to food and dining and get AI suggestion or recommendation. You see, so now you see the conservative minimum value, it is 450. The recommended is this one, and the comfortable amount, it is that one. So you can see the details as to why you should use that budget on your food and dining. So this will be the explanation. The pro tip, so track every food related expenses. So let's say groceries, restaurant, and something like that. And when you have, get the value that fits your need, so you can just click on it, and that value will be added, and after that you can be able to create that budget. So I can click create. Okay, so it has not created because here we have an error. So it says you already have a budget for this category in this month. So basically means in this month already we have that budget for for food and dining, and it has not been ended. So let's say now we are on November. Let's say you can just do that for December. Okay, so if we do that for December and you click create, now this should create the budget. Okay, so now you should not be able to see it. So if we go to December, now you should be able to see that food and dining, see, and the amount that you have created. But this amount was suggested by the AI. So that is a way that we have added the smartness into our application. Whenever you go to the create budget form, if you already have the enough, let's say, historical background of expenses, so this button will be shown, and when it will be shown, whenever you choose this let's say budget, or you just leave it to the overall and you click analyze. So obviously the AI will recommend you based on the previous expenses. It will check the trend on how you are doing. Okay, so here we have an error. So the category ID was not given, actually, because I didn't select any of the categories. So you have to select the categories here, and when you select it, when you click this one, so it will just suggest you with the right recommended values for the budget. Okay, and it will give you the why as to why it suggested these values, you see. So it will just give you that values, and after that you'll be given the pro tip on how you can stay under your recommended budget. Okay, so this is the smartness that we have added on our application, and from here the application now it is complete from the beginning, where we started by adding the project. We started to add the categories, then we have a way to manage the budgets, we have a way to manage the expenses, we have a way to manage the recurring expenses. So now everything is working. We have added the AI recommendations, so that now the application is very smart. It can be able to do some things to add like a smartness in your application, and you can be able to do other things very correctly. So now the next steps that you can do from this application, you can add, let's say, things like notifications, like the automated notifications, like you can use the notification from email or the database notifications. So when, let's say, a user has exceeded the budget, for example, here the user is doing the expenses, and the expenses have exceeded, let's say, a certain budgeted amount. Like, let's say you have budget of $1,500 and you have spent, let's say, 1,000. So it can give you the notification to give you that the alert that you have already spent, let's say, a certain amount, and you are away to an ending of your budget. So you can do that, and it will be like your side work, so that you can be able to do things on your own too. Okay, so for now, this marks the end of the project, and this marks the end of the tutorial. So if you find the whole project useful to you, please like the video, share with your friends, and support the video by subscribing. And ciao, see you on the next video.